This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Wednesday, June 17th. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look a little different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on, and we appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Addressing weeks of growing national outcry over police violence, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on policing Tuesday. The order came alongside separate efforts from both Republicans and Democrats in Congress focused on police reforms.
This fast food restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, was the site of the fatal shooting of a black man, Rayshard Brooks, by a white police officer last week. It was burned down by protesters, a reminder of the tension over police violence and systemic racism that has rocked the country for weeks since the death of George Floyd in a police incident in Minneapolis, Minnesota, late May. Surrounded by law enforcement on Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on policing. He said the percentage of bad cops is tiny and calls for reform that doesn't compromise the work of good officers. He rejected the calls to reallocate police funds and resources to non-police forms of public safety, such as the social services.
Americans want law and order. They demand law and order. They may not say it. They may not be talking about it, but that's what they want. Some of them don't even know that's what they want, but that's what they want.
Trump's order includes certifying police departments, boosting information sharing to better track officers with excessive use of force complaints, creating services to address mental health, drug addiction, and homelessness. Rafael Mangual is from the conservative think tank Manhattan Institute.
It is a step in the right direction. It is not particularly far-reaching, which I don't think it should be. I think any far-reaching policy changes should come from Congress, but I do think that it is pointing itself at the right things, which are training deficiencies and building out more clarity with respect to the data on things like police misconduct and making that more publicly available.
Trump said chokeholds, such as the one applied by a policeman's knee on George Floyd's neck, should be off limits unless an officer's life is at risk. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said Trump's order is not enough.
On the things they said they might have, getting rid of chokeholds, it doesn't. It's more voluntary. Putting a national registry, it doesn't. It's more voluntary.
Despite bipartisan consensus that action is necessary amid nationwide protests, there's little agreement in Congress on police reform, with competing legislative proposals from House Democrats and Senate Republicans. A key disagreement is the issue of qualified immunity, a legal doctrine that protects law enforcement officers accused of misconduct. Democrats and victims of police violence say the requirement that officers' behavior must violate clearly established laws or constitutional rights is too difficult to meet. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday refused to re-examine the doctrine. While the president did not mention racism, a key grievance of the Black Lives Matter movement, after Trump's remark, Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden tweeted a video of his discussion on the subject and says systemic racism pervades every part of our society, including law enforcement, and we have to do the hard work to root it out. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
The Black Lives Matter protests that have erupted across the world in recent weeks is reinvigorating demands in Europe for statues of slave traders and colonial figures to be removed. A memorial to Cecil Rhodes at Oxford University is the focal point of protests in Britain. As VOA's Henry Ridgwell reports from London, racial tensions are resurfacing as counter-protesters also take to the streets.
One of Britain's most prestigious institutions, now at the centre of the fierce debate over the country's colonial past. Thousands of people protested outside Oxford University's Oriel College in recent days beneath a statue of Cecil Rhodes, who was a 19th century British mining magnate and politician in southern Africa. This protester declined to give his name.
How can you celebrate the colonialism of of the African countries? How can you celebrate the destruction of African countries? How can you celebrate stealing from African countries?
Rhodes founded the De Beers Diamond Empire and gave his name to Rhodesia under the British Empire, present-day Zimbabwe. His policy on racial segregation was the forerunner of apartheid.
He laid the foundations of the skewed labor systems that we see, the seizure of lands, particularly in South Africa, and more precisely in Zimbabwe, contemporary Zimbabwe and Zambia. That is nothing worthy of celebration, irrespective of the fact that subsequently his bequeathment has gone to Oxford University for purposes of setting up educational scholarships.
Close to 200,000 people have signed a petition calling for the statue's removal, and the campaign is backed by 26 Oxford City councillors who say it is incompatible with the city's commitment to anti-racism. Oriel College issued a statement saying, "We believe Black Lives Matter and support the right to peaceful protest." One Oxford historian says demands for the statue's removal are simplistic.
I think that one has to be very careful with questions like this, not to just pick out a single individual, because the whole empire, all of Britain, universities, cities, industry was all built on materials, resources and wealth taken from other parts of the world.
The University of Cape Town in South Africa removed a statue of Cecil Rhodes in 2016 after months of demonstrations. The Rhodes Must Fall campaign was mirrored in Oxford at the time, but the Oriel College statue remained in its place. The Black Lives Matter protests in the wake of the death of George Floyd in police custody last month in the US have sparked fierce debate in Europe over racism, colonialism and slavery. Far-right protesters clashed with police Saturday in London. They had travelled to the capital to, in their words, defend the statues. Across Britain, memorials have been boarded up, including a statue of Winston Churchill outside Parliament, which was defaced earlier this month. The statues are at the centre of a cultural battle that is spilling onto the streets and becoming increasingly violent. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Kenyan police are confirming that a police officer is to face charges over the killing of a 13-year-old boy during enforcement of a coronavirus curfew. Yasin Moyo was shot in late March while standing on his family's apartment balcony in Nairobi, a tragedy that a police spokesman described as an accident. But activists have long accused Kenyan police of brutality and unlawful killings with little to show in the way of action. Lene Ruvaga has more from Nairobi.
Hussein and Hadija Moyo's 13-year-old son Yasin was shot and killed in late March during police enforcement of the coronavirus curfew. Moyo says he is relieved to hear that a policeman will face charges over his son's death.
My neighbour who witnessed the incident saw him steady his gun and take aim on his target. He then let loose his shot. But by then, my eldest daughter had told her mother, "Let's get away from the balcony, it's not safe." My wife then beckoned the children to get away, but it was too late. Yasin had been hit by the bullet.
A Kenyan police spokesman confirmed a policeman is to be charged over the teenager's death, but also decried it as an accident.
We know he didn't do it intentionally, but still he has committed a crime of manslaughter or whatever. He has killed an innocent life because of his professional negligence. If he would have done his work professionally the way he's trained, we would have not lost that boy.
But Kenyan protesters this month decried what they call years of police impunity and a jump in incidents of police brutality during the curfew.
We are tired of police brutality. They're killing our youth, including my late husband. I have a young son, and by protesting, I'm fighting for his future because the unlawful killings are constant and our voices are not being heard.
They marched in Mathare, the poor neighborhood where Yasin Moyo was killed. Kenya's Independent Police Oversight Authority says 5 other police are facing charges over other deaths, injuries and assaults that predate the COVID-19 curfew. The IPOA says it is investigating 15 deaths linked to police since March.
We thought that IPOA would level charges against more rogue officers whom we as a community know have committed unlawful killings. But nothing has happened. And that is why we ask ourselves, what powers do these police officers have?
Since its 2012 launch, Kenya's IPOA has overseen the conviction of just 7 officers for unlawful deaths, despite dozens of killings linked to police. The Independent Police Oversight Authority did not have a spokesperson available to comment. Lenny Rovaga for VOA News, Nairobi.
Now for the latest global update on COVID-19, China is imposing new coronavirus restrictions on Beijing Wednesday in an attempt to control a new outbreak. Among the steps being taken are the cancelling of dozens of domestic flights, requiring stricter social distancing efforts, and making those entering some residential areas undergo temperature checks and registration. There have been at least 137 new cases in Beijing since late last week linked to a wholesale food center. The World Health Organization is welcoming initial clinical results that show the drug Dexamethasone can help treat those who are critically ill with COVID-19. A University of Oxford team gave the drug to more than 2,000 critically ill coronavirus patients and reported that among those who were so sick they needed a ventilator to breathe, the drug reduced deaths by 35%. Turning to Africa, the WHO says more than 170 of Guinea-Bissau's 2,000 health workers now have COVID-19 and warns that hospitals there are close to being overwhelmed. The coronavirus has infected over 1,400 people in Guinea-Bissau and killed 15. In Nigeria, Lagos is suspending plans to reopen places of worship after a review of the coronavirus outbreak, according to the state governor. Places of worship were due to reopen on June 19th. The father of Somalia-born U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar died Monday at age 67 of complications from coronavirus, according to a statement released from the Minnesota Congresswoman. She said, quote, "No words can describe what he meant to me and all who knew him. My family and I ask for your respect and privacy during this time." Omar and her father Nur Mohammed came to the United States as refugees in 1995 from Somalia during the country's civil war and eventually settled in Minneapolis. Omar was elected along with Michigan Representative Rashida Tlaib in November 2018, making them among the first 2 Muslim women to serve in the U.S. Congress. The United Nations Population Fund says many women are reluctant to seek medical care at health facilities for fear they may be exposed to the coronavirus. In Cameroon, a non-profit group of doctors has started to make home visits, the first program of its kind in the country. Enin Zankeo reports from Yaoundé in this story, narrated by Moki Edwin Kinzeka.
25-year-old Jean Gono says she has a health condition that needs regular monitoring. But she hasn't been to the hospital for 4 months because she's afraid of being exposed to the coronavirus. Instead, a doctor from non-profit group SOS Doctors Cameroon is visiting her at home.
I feel safe at home compared to the hospital. When you go to the hospital, you don't know who you're going to meet on the way. The taxis you'll take, you don't know who is sick or not.
Like Ngono, many people around the world are afraid to go to hospitals, according to the United Nations Population Fund. Medical experts say they understand this, but urge patients to continue to stay in touch with doctors and hospitals.
If there are initiatives that can add value, they should not be rejected. But I would like to say, in my humble opinion, I believe that the hospital is the best place where the diagnosis can be made and the patient is well-oriented.
The group SOS Doctors Cameroon includes 30 doctors in 5 cities. Patients can ask for a consultation on the group's website or Facebook page. A visit costs almost $34, twice the price of a hospital consultation. Despite the cost, requests for home visits have jumped from about 20 in March to about 100 per month now, according to SOS Doctors Cameroon. And the group is continuing to find new ways to provide service.
We realized that it was mostly routine consultations. It gave us the idea to set up a remote assistance service, which is done by WhatsApp, to chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with a doctor, to ask any type of medical questions.
The demand is expected to continue. Cameroon has confirmed nearly 10,000 COVID-19 cases, one of the highest number of known infections in Africa. For Anne Zwanke in Yaoundé, Cameroon, Moki, Edwin Kinzeka for VOA News.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, a Sierra Leonean mechanic designs and builds an electric car. We'll be right back after this break.
alongside Nigeria. We survive the future with Mr. Soprano. You know what it is, the bad records. Get it on. Too many haters started, I ain't gonna be here. I'm ignoring the fake track in my pain, I replay. Never fun. Never fun.
Hello, I'm Lynn Ormoudou, your VOA Health correspondent. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the World Health Organization says there are currently no drugs licensed for the treatment or prevention of COVID-19, and there is no proof that hydroxychloroquine or any other drug can cure or prevent coronavirus. The misuse of hydroxychloroquine can cause serious side effects, illness, and even lead to death. For more information on COVID-19, visit who.int or contact your local or national health authorities.
Welcome back to Africa 54. U.S. President Donald Trump authorized sanctions against the ICC last week for investigating possible war crimes by U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Fatou Bensouda, prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, spoke to VOA about how the court will move forward without fear or favor. VOA Salam Solomon reports.
The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court is vowing to stand firm after U.S. President Donald Trump authorized sanctions against the court, which is probing suspected war crimes by U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Fatou Bensouda, originally from the Gambia, told VOA that she would not be swayed by U.S. actions from prosecuting international war crimes.
These attacks constitute an escalation and an unacceptable attempt to interfere with the rule of law and the court's judicial proceedings. An attack on the ICC also represents an attack against the interests of victims of atrocity crimes, for many of whom the ICC represents the last hope for justice.
Trump called the ICC stance an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo noted that the U.S. is not party to the court and warned allies from NATO countries that they too could be targeted for their actions in Afghanistan. In March, when the ICC's investigation was first authorized, Pompeo slammed the court as being politically motivated.
This is a truly breathtaking action by an unaccountable political institution masquerading as a legal body. It is all the more reckless for this ruling to come just days after the United States signed a historic peace deal on Afghanistan which is the best chance for peace in a generation. Indeed, the Afghan government itself pleaded with the ICC not to take this course. But the ICC politicians had other goals.
The sanctions could impose financial and travel restrictions on ICC employees and their families. Bensouda had her visa to travel to the U.S. revoked last year, but said she has been able to visit New York to brief the UN Security Council on her office's work.
The visa restrictions, the threats, and the other measures that are announced by the U.S., I see as naked attempts to interfere with the court's judicial and prosecutorial independence to meet political objectives. And we regret the aggressive position that has been taken by the U.S. government, not least given the country's long-standing contribution to the field of international criminal justice, and we hope that it will be reconsidered.
Critics of the ICC say it is solely authorized to prosecute crimes when national courts are unable or unwilling to do so. U.S. military courts have tried service members and convicted soldiers for crimes committed in Afghanistan. Brent Schaefer, a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation, says the U.S. has done a good job for holding its soldiers accountable. He told Fox News that the U.S. has complied with its obligations under domestic and international law, including the Convention Against Torture. Bensouda said that the court is accustomed to anger from countries being investigated.
Because of the nature of our work, because we are challenging the status quo, because we will exercise our jurisdiction without fear or favor, we will expect this pushback. It is not going to be the last time that this is happening to the court.
In recent years, a number of African heads of state have criticized the court for disproportionately targeting Africans and called for African countries to withdraw from the ICC. Salim Solomon, VOA News, Washington.
In our tech report, a Sierra Leonean mechanical engineer based in the United Kingdom is making his mark in the automobile and technology industry. Festus Vandi, co-founder Turbo Electric, has designed an electric car that he hopes to bring to the market soon. He has a passion for electric cars, but his ability to build his car from scrap metal is remarkable. His dream is to become one of Sierra Leone's budding automotive engineers. Africa 54's Paul Ndiho spoke to Vande, who is currently in Freetown, Sierra Leone.
Mr. Festus Vande, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, my brother.
You've been working on some innovative projects. Can you bring me up to speed? What is it that you've done this far?
I have been working on some innovative projects in England. I, myself, and my friend, Graham North, who is in the United Kingdom, who is my business partner, have been working on an electric vehicle. And this was a vehicle with design that nobody has ever done the type of vehicle before. So we actually used a Tesla motor, which was 500 horsepower. So we upgraded that to 700 horsepower. And the vehicle runs on 99 batteries. And when you charge these batteries overnight, it takes you 400 miles per charge. And we have successfully done the prototype. But even though now it's not on the road, we couldn't put it on the road because in England, they are asking for about £100,000 for type approval. And because we are just a small types of business thing, and we just want to see how we can bring some innovation to life using your local resources and all these things. So that's why, in fact, we thought we could bring the project to Africa here in Sierra Leone. I did everything on the engineering aspect of it and running. And we are still working on the technology because we want it to be high tech. We want everything to be electronics. We want it that you can control the car from your phone. So that's what my partner is working on now. He's a high-tech guy. He's really good at IT engineering and all these things.
When did you start working on this project?
It's almost 2 years now since we started this project.
You said it's an electric version. You looked at a Tesla model. Does that mean that you're going to be competing with Tesla, or you figured out a way to work with Tesla so you could use some of their things on your car?
We are thinking to actually manufacture our own motor in our own way, our own design. But we decided to start with that motor because we, as I say, a pivot point to see how it works, how the technology works, and then you can learn from that and make your own. So we are not competing with Tesla at all. He's more advanced. It's got money.
What kind of challenges are you facing as a person trying to get into car manufacturing and at the same time looking at electric vehicles? Because electric vehicles, as they are, they come with a lot of challenges, trying to make sure that you get all the certifications required for it to be on the road. So what kind of challenges are you dealing with at this point?
Well, first, I would like to put the financial aspect before that, because it's just me and my partner, and we are working from our pocket. You know, he's working in the IT industry, and I am also working doing the motor mechanic, and so we both raise money to facilitate this project. It's quite challenging, which was why we thought that we could come to Africa with this project, wherein you can fix it, try it on the road, see where the problems are, and then rectify the problems. Whereas in the United Kingdom, where we have fabricated this thing, they will need a type approval, which will cost about 100 grand. You know, so affording that can be very difficult. Since we'll be doing this thing, we haven't got any sponsorship yet, so we are doing everything out of our pocket. You see, so it's quite challenging to do it, but I tell you, with determination, I mean, you can do it.
The Sierra Leonean president has been at the forefront of championing innovation and technology in that country. Have you reached out to him, or have you reached out to his office to see if they can help you?
No, I haven't done that yet. There is this thing about Africans and dream. We got dreams, but we sometimes don't believe in the dreams. The Africans don't believe in talking. They believe in what they see, the reality. So if I have to go meet whoever is in charge to say, listen, this is what we are good at. We want to do this A, B, C, and D. And we have already started this. So if they come and see, then they know it's real. So you have to prove to the authorities that you are capable of doing this thing and let them see something happening.
Mr. Festus Savandi, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, my brother.
That was VOA's Paul Ndiho speaking to Festus Bande in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thank you for watching.